Hello and welcome to the second episode of Starside Chat in 2023. I'm one of your hosts, Zach Owens, and joining me as always is Aaron Capo.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about our most anticipated games of 2023 this week. We also have some news to talk about, so let's get into it.
Yeah, we can burn through this news and get to our... CES is happening, so there's been a couple of things that came out that I threw on here, but prior to CES, there was some pretty good news about Starfield that we saw.
Yeah, so Starfield's support page has sort of reconfirmed that it's going to launch in the first half of 2023, which I guess there was some question about. Just, you always feel like everybody's sort of waiting to see when Tears of the Kingdom is going to come out so that they can give it a wide berth. And it's possible that this thing could come out before Tears of the Kingdom, which I almost didn't expect. I kind of thought it would be the other way around, but they haven't officially confirmed when it's coming out. Starfield, that is. It was, originally supposed to come out November 2022, is delayed. What do you think? Do you think they go for like a March release maybe?
Now that would be crazy because that's coming up, March is a heavy hitter when it comes to game releases. March was also when Elden Ring came out as well, right? I
think that was end of February.
Right around that zone, that like 3 or 4 week period of like February, March in the middle, I feel like is when you really get the heat coming out. I could definitely see that. In the same vein as this, I put in our show notes there's some Silksong news because there was also, Xbox had like an Instagram story where they had Starfield and Silksong, and they were just like, hey, check out these games coming this year. And even though it was just like a still that we've gotten forever, the Silksong subreddit like exploded because they were like, oh my God, it's still happening. So, I mean, just with those two, Microsoft has a packed year.
Oh, and so does Nintendo, I think. Between, you got Fire Emblem Engage and you've got Tears of the Kingdom, and I assume there's more stuff coming from them as well that they will, I'm sure, outline in a Nintendo Direct at some point. But
and all of this that we're talking about is in the first half of 2023 because, as they said in their E3 conference, Silksong, everything they showed was like coming out within a year, so that would be like at the beginning of June. So I'm expecting Silksong to come out at some point in the spring, I would think, as well.
Yeah, so we talked about what a sort of big year for games 2022 was in terms of like those heavy hitters.
Yeah.
But a lot of games got pushed to 2023, and I think it's going to be a much crazier year.
I agree.
Because there's a lot of stuff that we were waiting on that we thought might have even come out in as far back as like 2021. And all of that stuff got pushed and pushed again, and now it's looking like it's gone on long enough that 2023 is going to be the year for a lot of games. So it could be an insane game of the year discussion at the end of the year this year. So
I'm surprised we haven't gotten an announcement from Bethesda about Starfield's release date with like pre-order bonuses and stuff. I would think they would want as many of those to stack up as possible, and we're fast approaching what is probably going to be their release date in like March or April.
Yeah, if indeed it is coming out still first half of the year like this news suggests, then you would think they would want those pre-orders like out there so people. But I mean, if they do end up having to delay again and it ends up coming out in like the fall, just to sort of avoid Tears of the Kingdom and just to give them a little bit more time, I guess maybe they would have more time for pre-orders. But like, what do they do at E3?
Yeah, really.
I don't know. I still hope it's coming out first half like this news suggests, but who knows? Who's to say? I do have a Google alert for like Starfield and Tears of the Kingdom collector's editions. Like, I'm just looking for it. Anytime that drops, I'm like ready to go pre-order. But
You won't be
I'm
able to play.
Also following that Wario64 on Twitter because he's like always posting about like collector's editions and like new hardware and like game sales and stuff like that.
He is a great source of news. Yeah.
Yeah. So if he, this week actually, he dropped a tweet about the Fire Emblem Engage collector's edition, and so I pre-ordered that. So that's coming up as well. So follow that and then set up a Google alert, and maybe we'll be able to get those collector's editions for Starfield and for Tears of the Kingdom.
You don't really have to follow a Twitter account supposedly to get a PS5 anymore, though.
Yeah, that's what they say. I mean, anecdotally, I feel like whatever his name is, the sort of president of PlayStation, said this towards the end of last year, in the lead up to Christmas. And I was like, I don't know if that's true, because I looked everywhere and they were sold out everywhere. Now, my parents were able to still get a PS5 over the holidays.
That is still crazy to me.
Through Best Buy. So I guess that's the place to go. But supposedly, PlayStation has passed 30 million units sold, and they're basically declaring the shortage is over. So, I mean, where are we at in the life cycle of the PS5?
Yeah, really. It came out in 2020, I think, right? So it's been 2 years.
Yeah, so we're almost to the point of like a mid-cycle refresh.
The Pro version.
And they're just now getting to a point where the shortage is supposedly over. I still have not seen them on store shelves.
Yeah, neither have I. I've seen Xbox Series S's and X's.
Granted, I have not been to Best Buy in a little while, which is seemingly the place to get a PS5 at this point.
That's a good point. I only really ever check at Target or like Walmart.
I was going to say, I shop at Target a lot, and I never see them there. Yeah. But potentially Best Buy is the place to go. But
I got a couple of CES things to talk about. Have you seen this Project Leonardo?
I have not.
This is Sony's big accessibility push. They came out with these cool-looking new controllers. I think they call them Leonardo because they kind of look like a turtle shell. But they're very cool. They're supposedly going to help people with like disabilities play video games, and they look really crazy. I almost kind of want to try one just to see how it is for someone who has like full mobility of their hands and stuff. But I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, so Microsoft was actually like sort of at the forefront of this accessibility controllers for a long time, I feel like. And Sony's maybe playing a little bit of catch up here, but it's cool that they finally have something.
It's fully customizable. I'd be so interested. I wonder if these even have like I wonder if people who play fighting games or like competitive games would try to use one of these.
Oh yeah,
to just like get a fully customizable kit, you know?
Yeah, because we do have linked in our show notes an article from Polygon about it, and they show there's a picture of some of the different customizations that you can do with it, and one of them is like a fight stick. Yeah. So yeah, that would be cool.
Other things, this isn't really CES really, but I thought it was cool. I love Baba Is You, and they released, I don't even know if this is affiliated with the guy who made Baba Is You, but there's a new Baba game, and it's called Baba Files Taxes, and it's more of a joke game. I think it only takes like 10 or 15 minutes to beat, but it's basically just you read a lot and you just like do taxes, and Baba is like on the side looking stressed out.
Yeah, well, that's how everybody looks come tax season. So,
in VR news, at CES, Vive released their XR Elite, which is similar. It's kind of a Quest Pro competitor because it also has what they call the pancake lenses, which are very, very, it's not as front heavy anymore. It's cheaper than the Quest Pro. Quest Pro is, I think, $1,500, and this is only $1,100. But it's got, you can move the IPD, and you can put in custom lenses, and it has a battery pack on the back, which you can remove if you want to, and just power it. You can remove the battery pack and then basically just wear it like glasses almost, where it doesn't wrap around the whole part of your head. It just has like glasses frames. This is very interesting though. And like, I'm all about, I love VR, but it's not there yet, I don't think. And the Quest Pro is very enticing, but it is also still like meta, like Facebook related, whereas like Vive stuff has been much more open source. So I'm all about this. I wish it was not $1,100, but progress is progress, I guess. And then the only other thing from CES I wanted to point out is, have you seen this yoga book 9i?
No, I'm just looking at it now and it looks insane.
It's crazy. So it's a dual screen laptop, which people I think have been trying to do for a long time. But this one I think really nails it. Like, so it's basically just two screens. And it's not foldable. Like, it is folding, but the screens aren't folding, I should say.
Yeah, so it doesn't have the keyboard on the bottom. It's just like the top part is a screen and the bottom part is a screen.
Exactly. Yeah, that's actually a great way to say it. Yeah. So it comes with a keyboard that you can have as like an additional thing. But what it looks like you can have it be just like the bottom screen is a keyboard and trackpad, or you can set it up on the stand that it comes with and just have two screens that are stacked on top of each other, which I think would be very cool for game-related stuff, especially if you were like streaming. I don't know how powerful this thing is, but you could have like your Twitch on the bottom and your game on the top and just have like a dual monitor setup wherever you go, which I think is very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, just looking at this, it makes so much sense. That we've had for a long time like tablet keyboards that you can attach to like the tablet and basically turn it into a laptop. Yeah. And I don't know why it hasn't occurred to us before this to just like do the same thing with a laptop, but just like make it so it's a giant screen basically when you unfold it.
Another cool thing about it is, so the keyboard is magnetic, so you can kind of like latch it onto the bottom screen if you want and kind of use it on the bottom screen, but also use the bottom screen. If you do that, there's like kind of widgets you can have at the top where it shows you like your CPU and your GPU temperature and like usage and stuff, as well as like, you know, you can have like a weather widget and things like that. But I just think this is a really cool design. I'm all about crazy looking new laptops, and I think this is a really interesting design, especially they're not marketing it towards gamers, but I think it has a lot of interesting gaming applications.
Yeah, it would. I don't know if you said it because I've been mesmerized by this video that I'm watching, but the bottom screen you can turn into just like a virtual keyboard.
Yeah, with the trackpad. A crazy thing about that is if you don't want to do that, if you tap with like 3 fingers anywhere on the screen, it just puts a trackpad wherever you're at. If you want a trackpad, you can move it anywhere on the screens. It doesn't necessarily have to be tied to the bottom, like below the keyboard.
Yeah, and there was another shot they just showed where they put the actual like physical keyboard attachment on top where the virtual keyboard would go, and you can still use it like magnetizes to it, and then you can still use the bottom part as the trackpad.
It's very cool tech, I have to say.
Yeah, and she showed a different screen on the bottom where you have like the bottom part is the keyboard. Maybe you like plug in a physical mouse to use, and then I would
definitely use the physical mouse. I wouldn't use the trackpad.
Yeah, and then you have the top as like to have like weather readouts and like different widgets there on the top part.
I think it would be cool for Twitch streaming if it's like powerful enough to do that. I think that would be such a cool usage for it.
I would 100% use the physical keyboard with it instead of typing on like the virtual keyboard.
Yeah, for sure.
Just as like just to have the option if say you were traveling or whatever and you were like on a plane or something. It seems like very useful. So,
and then the final piece of news is not CES related, but it's that time of year again. AGDQ 2023 is happening. As we're recording this, it's happening tomorrow, but it's happening all week this week. Some really cool games coming out. I might do a like best of HDQ because there are a couple that I'm very excited about that I don't think have been run in an HDQ before. So look out for that video I might do. But if you're looking for a good time, head on over to the Games Done Quick Twitch channel all week, and you can see crazy games being run super, super fast.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through the list. There's like a very long list of games that they're going to do.
I used to be really into a game for, I think, PlayStation 2. I actually don't remember when I played this, but there's a game called Gungrave that I was very into. And they're doing a run of that, which I'm very interested to see. That game had great music, and so I'm excited to listen to that music again.
Yeah, and I'm seeing, so they've got like some recent stuff like Wavetail and Astral Chain, but they also have like some classics like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which I follow that Metroidvania subreddit, and I'm always looking for recommendations from there. And like all the time, people are referencing that game as like their favorite, and it's like a classic, obviously. And it was on PS5 for like $3. And so I picked it up. I have not started it yet, but one of these days I'm going to get around to finally playing that like classic beloved Metroidvania game. And like I played Super Metroid on the Super NES Classic last year just to like check off one of those like classic you know, where they talk about like required reading, or like if you're like a film major, like one of the 100 movies you have to have watched. I feel like if you're into Metroidvanias, like Super Metroid and probably Castlevania Symphony of the Night are like two of the top ones that you have to get around to. Yeah. Along with probably Hollow Knight as well, as one of the ones you have to check out. So
a couple other ones.
I'm going to get around to that.
I wanted to shout out, there's going to be a Cultic speedrun at some point. There's going to be a Fez speedrun. There's going to be an interesting Stardew Valley speedrun. There's a lot of ways you can run Stardew Valley. And they're doing a seeded crafting rooms one, which I think where they use a special seed for the game so they know where everything is going to be. And it's only going to be 30 minutes, so I'm very interested to see that. Other things, I'm just rolling through these to see it. Oh, there's going to be a Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines speedrun, which I think will be crazy because that game is a little bit broken. The Breath of the Wild one, obviously, that's only going to take like 30 minutes, which is going to be crazy to see. They're always optimizing that game. Beautiful Katamari is going to be one I'm probably going to definitely watch. And any percent 30-minute run of that will be crazy to see. That one's going to be highly optimized, I would imagine. Ooh, a Katana Zero one. Any percent TAS. So it's going to be a TAS run, so it's going to look crazy.
That game's so good.
Ooh, they did this a couple of years ago, and I'm excited to see it again because this is they're going to do a Half-Life Alyx speedrun in bounds. They're not going to take advantage of any of the out of bounds tricks that was in the last one, so that'll be very interesting to see. But yeah, looking forward to that. Should we dive into our most anticipated games?
Absolutely, we should. Now, how do you want to do this? Do you want to do kind of the way we did our top 10 games of the year, where we count down from 10 to 1 and we go back and forth?
I think let's do that. I think our top 4 are going to be pretty similar, but I think that our bottom half are going to be pretty different.
Yeah, and I do have some other like possibilities or like honorable mentions based on like, we don't necessarily know if they're coming out, so they don't make sense for the top 10, but they may come out, or maybe they are not even like necessarily within our top 10, but some stuff we can talk about after that as well.
Do you want to go first? What's your number 10?
Sure. So my number 10 is the Like a Dragon Ishin game.
Ooh, yeah.
That's coming out on February 21st. So it's a pretty early one. I did look up some gameplay this past week because I was like, oh yeah, that's coming up. And it looks very cool. It looks like one of the Yakuza games, but like set in like old Japan, old-timey Japan. And I really loved Yakuza Like a Dragon. And so I'm very sort of keeping an eye on that series now. And they've sort of changed the name a little bit. It's no longer Yakuza. It's now Like a Dragon. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious story-wise what's going on, because it seems like it's all the characters from the previous Yakuza games, but like now it's in an old-timey setting. So it could be a very good game, and I'm very much looking forward to it. What's your number 10?
I don't know if this actually is coming out in 2023. So the first two that I have are, I think, maybe just announced, but could possibly come out in 2023. My number 10 is that Judas game by Ken Levine, Bioshock type game.
Yeah.
It looks very interesting. We saw it at the Game Awards, and I loved Bioshock and Bioshock Infinite. And this looks right up that alley. Like, I was surprised how similar it looked actually to that. But I'm very interested to check this out. I don't know if it is coming out in 2023, but if it is, I will pick it up.
Yeah, I'm definitely hoping that they show off more of that game. Like, we get like a gameplay sort of overview.
I think if it doesn't come out this year, we'll definitely see it at E3.
Yeah. Well, my number 9, just to sort of, I guess, be a very similar type of pick, is Atomic Heart, which looks very Bioshock-esque.
I forgot about it. I should have put that on my list.
Now, this is coming out on the same day as Like a Dragon Ishin on February 21st. So it's going to be, like, I don't know why February is suddenly, like, the month that's, like, super packed. Like, last year it was Horizon Forbidden West and Elden Ring and, like, a couple other games that came out in that first or second week of March. But, yeah, so Atomic Heart, they've shown some gameplay of this recently, I feel like, and it looks insane. Like, it's sort of a... like Bioshock set in like Russia, I guess.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is going to be on Game Pass, right?
I believe so, yeah. So I won't even necessarily have to buy this game to play it. But I definitely want to play it on PC because it's a first-person shooter. Oh, yeah. But you have like some crazy powers. This one could very well be a sleeper hit, like Game of the Year contender.
I believe that.
And so, yeah, it looks very, very cool to me, especially if you like Bioshock games. The only one I played was Bioshock Infinite, but it's a similar vibe, I feel like.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What's your number 9?
My number 9 is also one I'm not sure is coming out this year, but it was one that... It was that one that I heard about so long ago, and then I thought it was canceled, and then... it resurfaced at last year's E3, I believe. It's Routine.
Routine. Oh, I think I remember you talking about this game.
You're on like I want to say like a moon base, and there are killer robots running around. And I think it's run-based, or at least it was years ago when they first announced it. But we got a really cool trailer and some gameplay at E3. And I follow the developer on Twitter, and they're still actively tweeting about stuff. So if this comes out in 2023, this is another thing where I would definitely pick it up and check it out. I think it's going to be a shorter game, a shorter experience. But I love the art style of it. It's just got such a good vibe. Like all the computer screens are like old CRTs, and you have like a big chunky gadget that you're carrying around with you. It just looks very cool to me. And if it comes out in 2023, it's definitely going to be on my list of something to play. But what's your number 8?
My number 8 is Fire Emblem Engage, which comes out on the 20th of this month. So it's coming up pretty soon. Nintendo has kind of done a little bit of a marketing push this last week. They had like a 9-minute sort of gameplay overview trailer that they released. But it was only released in Japanese. I think it was like Nintendo Japan's YouTube channel. And then there was like a bunch of preview, like hands-on preview coverage from all the different outlets this last week. So I've been watching that, and it's making me really excited to play it, actually. I loved Fire Emblem Three Houses, and this seems like a little bit more of a return to like the old style of Fire Emblem game, but with some of those nice things that people liked about Three Houses thrown in. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to jump in and play that game. I've been, I watched, I think it was maybe Nintendo Life, or maybe it was even Digital Foundry. One of those outlets did a video about sort of just comparing the graphics and performance from their preview time with Engage versus how Three Houses looked and performed. And it seems like they've done a good job of like optimizing and improving the look and performance of Engage over Three Houses. And they were like playing the music in the background from Three Houses, and it got me like really into it because I love the soundtrack for Three Houses. So I was like, man, maybe this weekend I should jump back in and try to finish that Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes game, because I actually didn't finish it last year. But it could be a good way to sort of whet the appetite before Engage comes out.
Yeah, it tied you over.
Yeah. So what is your number 8?
I wonder if this will be on your list. My number 8 is Replaced, if you recall that game.
That's one of those games that I have under the possibilities. I'm not sure if that's coming out. Maybe did they say it was coming out this year?
I don't know. That's why it's at the bottom of my list, is because I also wasn't sure. But I mean, we've been seeing trailers for it for so long. It would not surprise me if it came out this year. But if you're not familiar with this one, it's a side scroller, but it's like kind of that Octopath Traveler. Well, not even that. It's like kind of 2.5D, like dripping with like really cool cyberpunk vibes. Like the lighting is great. The whole aesthetic of it is just like it's like a
dystopian
game,
sort of 80s aesthetic.
It looks cool. I think I still not really sure what kind of game it will be. I almost think it's going to be kind of a not like a Pentiment, but more of like an Inside almost, where you don't have a ton of choice about where the story progresses. You're sort of just constantly going in one direction. But I think it's going to be like it has combat, which is something that Inside didn't really have. I think it's going to be really cool. I'm very interested in it.
I think, it looks great. I'm super into it. I looked it up on Game Informer, and they said that the developer, which is Sad Cat, is based in Belarus near Ukraine.
Whoa!
So some of the designers have been sort of caught in the crossfire of what's going on over there.
It won't come out in 2023.
They had to relocate for safety. So
yeah,
we're not sure what's going on or when they'll be able to ship this game, but hopefully they are safe more than anything else.
Are we at number 7? What's your number 7?
I believe we are at number 7. So my number 7 is Final Fantasy 16, which is coming out in June. And I've become more of a Final Fantasy person after Final Fantasy VII Remake. And so I'm like ready to be on board with what they release. I think it looks cool. It's less of a, like they've kind of gone away from turn-based stuff and more into action. So I'm curious how they take sort of the approach to the combat in the remake for Final Fantasy VII and sort of adapt that to whatever they're doing with Final Fantasy 16. Which looks kind of crazy. And I played that Crisis Core. We didn't talk about it on the podcast, but I played that Crisis Core game to sort of get some of the backstory for Final Fantasy VII Remake. And so playing that recently, it's making me pretty excited for more Final Fantasy stuff. So I'm ready for this game as well. I know you weren't so hot on it or what they showed, but
I don't know. Maybe cool. I'll get into it. I just like that and Forspoken. Those worlds just like I don't know what it is about.
Old fantasy
it's just like
settings.
The court politics stuff. I'm not into. I don't know.
You gotta watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
it'll get you into it.
But if it comes out and people are heavily praising it, maybe I will pick it up.
Yeah. What's your number 7?
Planet of Lana. Is this on your list?
Oh, yeah. It's not on my list, but I do think I will play that game and like it.
I love a good side-scrolling, interesting event. Like we were just talking about Inside with Replaced. And I think this is going to be a like more sunny version of Inside almost. I love the art style of it. It's just like so bright. And usually these side-scrolling ones, which are kind of... I feel like they tend to be like, oh, this is kind of creepy, isn't it? Like Little Nightmares and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where they're telling you a story, but it's also like supposed to a little bit unsettle you. But this one I feel like is, I mean, there are going to be some darker aspects of it based on the trailer, but I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a really fun, interesting game. I guess I'll wait for the reviews to come out, but...
It almost looks like a side-scrolling version of that, oh gosh, what was that game that you lent to me with the big... dog creature.
Oh, The Last Guardian.
Yeah, it looks like maybe a side-scrolling.
Yes, actually, I think that's a very apt description of it because you're the thing about it is you're always with this little, almost like a little black cat thing. It's not a cat, but he's like able to help you out and do different things for you. So I'm all about this. I think every time I look at gameplay of this, I'm like, man, I cannot wait to play this.
I think it's going to be a nice little indie hit when it comes out. So I'm into it.
What's your number 6?
My number 6 is a game called Mandragora.
I don't know what this is.
I've been following the Kickstarter for this, and you should look up a trailer. They've got some gameplay on their YouTube channel. I forget who the developer is of this game, but it looks very cool. It's sort of it's almost a Death Game, but Afterlife style, like 2D side scrolling, maybe a 2.5D side scrolling like RPG, Souls-like game that maybe has some Metroidvania elements to it. And you have these like different sort of magical powers, but you also have your melee weapons, and it looks incredible, like graphically. It's one of the best looking sort of 2.5D side-scrolling games that I've seen.
Yeah.
I'm very into what they've shown off so far. I don't know when it's coming out, if it'll come out this year, but it seems like they've been working on it for a long time. It's a game that I have not seen people talking about, unfortunately, but it's gotten like a lot of people talking in the Metroidvania subreddit, and it's got like I remember seeing it because the Grime developer was tweeting about it and sort of retweeted some of the stuff the developers were tweeting about. And I saw it and I was like, wow, why is nobody talking about this? It looks incredible. So I'm into it. I hope it comes out this year, and I've been a little bit following the Kickstarter ever since I saw it. I haven't contributed to it, but I do hope that it's ready to go this year. What's your number 6?
Well, in the same vein, this is a Metroidvania that is also a Kickstarter game. This is one where I don't know if it is coming out this year, but they did release a trailer somewhat recent, or sorry, a demo somewhat recently. So people have kind of gotten their hands on it. But I'm talking about Crowsworn.
Oh, yeah, I remember you talking about this.
It's very much in the same vein as a Hollow Knight type. Like, this, I feel like this trailer gets posted on the Hollow Knight subreddit like every couple of months. Just be like, man, this looks great to me. But similar to Hollow Knight, it's like, you know, your classic Metroidvania, but you're a guy in one of those plague masks, and you have a gun, as well as like a scythe and things like that. But you have very similar movement mechanics to Hollow Knight, I feel like. Interesting boss enemy design. It looks like you've got a bunch of interesting techniques you can use. It looks very fun to just like unload a clip of your gun. I don't know how you like reacquire bullets, but it looks great to me, and I am very excited for this. I don't believe they have a release date for this yet, but the last trailer they released was in July of this year, and then they released a demo, I think, for Kickstarter backers. But it's like, it says inspired by Hollow Knight, Devil May Cry, and Bloodborne as their inspirations. So it looks great to me, and this is one where I might even pick up like a collector's edition if they offer that. But I don't know, it looks great to me.
Yeah, it looked really... I was very impressed by the trailer that you sent that one time as well. It is probably one that I will also pick up and play. Which, I mean, it's got some stiff competition this year as far as Metroidvanias go, but it's definitely one that may fly under the radar, but be a nice hit as well.
What's your number 5?
Well, so continuing the theme of Metroidvanias, my number 5 is The Last Case of Benedict Fox. If you remember this game,
this looked very cool, actually. I forgot about this game.
Yeah, I believe it was shown at like an Xbox conference over at Summer Games Fest, maybe. It looks very, very cool, and I'm like all about Metroidvanias these days. And so the fact that this is sort of like a higher profile one that looks like, you know, has really good looking graphics. It's sort of, I want to say it's like a Victorian setting.
It's cool. I actually am watching something I never watched before. They released in August, they released a gameplay overview trailer. Did you watch this?
I didn't. I need to look this up.
It looks cool. I'm watching it without sound right now, but it seems like it's got a bunch... Ooh, there's like a very interesting mechanic where he like kills an enemy, and then it cuts open a rift in space, and then he's teleported to a different area, which is interesting. Man, the graphics of this look great, I have to say.
Yeah, for Metroidvanias, like the graphics of this just look insanely good to me, and like seems like there's some crazy platforming as well. Yeah, I'm very hyped for this game when it comes out, and I assume it'll be on Game Pass. So
you would think,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know that for sure, so don't quote me on that. But I believe this will probably come to Game Pass. So, what is your number 5?
Okay, this one is a little crazy, Zach, but I want you to bear with me.
Okay.
It's gonna sound okay. So my number 5 is Redfall.
Ooh,
now,
really?
The reason I say that, I had zero interest in this game up until literally this morning.
Really?
But I read an article where someone had gotten a hold of it and played it, some journalist, and they were like, people are speculating that this is like it's like a Left 4 Dead clone. At least that's what it seems like from the trailers. But in actuality, it's more of a clone. It's more of a take on Far Cry.
Really?
Yes. So, and by that formula, they mean, like a large expansive open world where there are like bases that you need to acquire, basically. I assume there's some sort of watchtower that you have to climb or whatever to unlock things. But the fact that it's not a Left 4 Dead and that it is a Far Cry, I loved Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4. Far Cry 5 I wasn't as hot on just because the setting didn't really do it for me. And they did that weird thing where they locked you into cutscenes when you went into certain zones, which I was not into. And I never played the latest one.
Far Cry 6, yeah, I didn't
Which I'm struggling even to remember where it... Oh, no, that was the one in Cuba, right? Where you had like jetpacks or whatever?
Yeah, the bad guy from Breaking Bad was in it.
And that looked interesting to me, and I could see a world where I play that eventually, but... I don't know, a supernatural Far Cry with vampires is...
I can't believe I didn't know it wasn't just I assumed it was just like a co-op Left 4 Dead style
That's
game.
what I thought too. But according to this article I read, it's more in the vein of Far Cry, which I was not expecting at all.
That wildly changes my interest level in this game.
So it's Arcane that's making it.
Completely.
And I guess I read it... Where did I read it? Games Radar is the article that I read it at. And the headline of the article even is, it's Arcane. It isn't Arcane's Left 4 Dead. It's the studio's spin on Far Cry. If you read the article, it's pretty interesting. It takes place in Massachusetts, and looking at it now, like I initially immediately wrote this off as something I did not care about, but so I didn't really look into it. But the art style is pretty cool. I mean, there's like a little robot you can hang out with. I don't know. It's something I might want to check out. I want to see more now that I know what it is. It's crazy that it's still crazy to me that it's not a Left 4 Dead thing, because all of the marketing is just like 4 people doing stuff. The
initial trailers definitely had it pegged as like just a co-op Left 4 Dead style game. And so I, like you, I had completely written this game off, but it being an Arcane game, and also like I assume because it's an Xbox thing now, it'll be on Game Pass, but that like completely changes my outlook on this game.
Cooperation is optional, according to this. So it says, once you start the campaign, your character selection is locked in for the duration of the game. If you choose to play solo, you'll do so without the other 3 players around you. So basically, you could play it 4 different times if you play it solo as the 4 different people, and I think it would be different gameplay styles. But in co-op, there's no restrictions on the multiple times of different people joining your group whenever. But if you want to play it solo, you definitely can.
Yeah, that makes me much more interested in this. I probably would play that if it was a Far Cry style game, especially since it's going to be on Game Pass.
Yeah, you don't even have to think about it. You can just download it and start checking it out.
Yeah, and was this a first-person shooter?
I believe so, yeah. I think it is, yeah.
Okay, well then I will definitely play that on PC, on Game Pass.
We're getting into the realm where I think our picks are going to be pretty similar, but in different orders. So what's your number 4?
I was going to say, I think our top 4 might be the exact same, but in completely different orders. So my number 4 is Silksong.
Oh, well, that's not my number 4.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure this is your number 1.
Well, you don't know. You could, you never know. But let's talk about it right now. It's going to be great. It's very unlikely this game will be a letdown. Very exciting. I think it will get you to revisit Hollow Knight once you complete this, because you're just going to be hungry for more of it. I'm so like I think about it every day, and it's going to be something that I'm going to talk about a lot probably, because the thing about Hollow Knight is there's a ton of lore with it, and there are so many YouTube channels dedicated to unveiling the lore of Hollow Knight. And I think similar to that, Silksong is going to have a ton of speculation about, what does this mean, or what's the overall story, or what is this character actually like, what are his intentions. And I didn't get to like engage with that in real time when Hollow Knight came out because I wasn't aware of it. But in this, I'm going to be constantly scouring like wikis and YouTube videos of all about like what's this going to be. So, and I'm excited for you to play it as well.
I think it's going to be your Elden Ring.
It could be
this year.
It very well could be.
It's like this thing that feels like a giant community game club where everybody's sort of progressing at the same time and talking about it. I feel like it's going to be that for you this year. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, I'm curious to check it out, especially since I, was unable to get Hollow Knight running well enough to be able to play it. But in anticipation of playing Silksong and having that reignite my interest in Hollow Knight, I did pick up a physical copy for the Switch, thinking the Switch's more lockdown approach, and it will probably look and play better on my Switch.
Now, have you received that yet?
I did. I got it just yesterday. I have not started it yet, but it came with a manual and a little fold-out map.
That is what I wanted. So that map is hard to get a hold of. I bought like a bigger version of it, but the bigger version of it that I bought, or I think Sarah bought it for me actually, is like not as crisp as I want it to be. And so I think I am going to buy a physical copy so I can get a crisper version of that map.
It was on Amazon for like, I think $30. Like it wasn't even expensive.
It's not bad.
And I believe it was maybe a UK version.
Oh, interesting.
So it did take a while to get here.
Yeah.
But I pretty much, like, after I realized that it was not going to work on my Steam Deck, I checked Amazon for a Switch version, and they happen to have a physical copy for not too expensive. So I was like, you know what? I probably will still play this one day, and I might prefer to play it on the Switch anyway.
It's a good idea.
So I just went ahead and picked it up. So we will see. I don't know if I will... I might have time here in January to play it before Fire Emblem Engage comes out.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, there might not be a lot going on. We talked about doing our weekly Game of the Year hunt. But it sounds like that's not going to be super relevant until Fire Emblem comes out. We're going to start it.
Yeah, that'll probably be the first big game of 2023 worth talking about. So we'll see. Where are we at? Are we on
4?
Your number 4?
Yeah, my number 4 is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Okay, yes, this is also within my top 4. It's my number 3, actually. So let's talk about it.
This is going to be good, I think. I knew, like, I feel like Final Fantasy VII Remake was a known quantity because for so long they said it's only going to be Midgar. It's stopping at the end of Midgar. So that's the story we're going to tell is Midgar. But we're out of Midgar now, and I really don't know what this is going to encompass. Like, I don't know where the stopping point is. I mean, in the other game, when you get out of Midgar, it's like that's it. It's an open world. Like, you can go. There is like a path you have to go through, but I mean, I really, really don't know how far you're going to get. I don't know if like Sid is going to be in this game, for instance. So I'm so curious to see. We've seen so little of it. But it is supposedly coming out this year, or 2023. So,
well, yeah, they have just a nebulous 2023 like release window for it. So it could very well get pushed to 2024. But especially considering they already have another Final Fantasy game coming out this year. But yeah, I'm also extremely curious because this is supposed to be a trilogy.
It is, yeah.
I feel like the entire like first game was taken up by Midgar, which for the original Final Fantasy VII, I hear that's like a very small portion of the game.
It's pretty quick, so, like, I gotta say. Yeah.
So how are they going to like speed up the pace of them getting through that original game?
Well, and we talked about this a lot on the podcast. I don't know. I'm so curious to know if we're ever going to get to a point where there is a world map, or if it's all going to be linear, like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was. To me, it seems like it would have to be all linear almost. It's just with the engine they have and the way they're telling the story. But if there's a point where I can get into an airship and just like go to different cities, that's going to be amazing.
Well, and also like it could be wildly different from Final Fantasy VII Original from here on out. Like, because they've basically set up that this is like probably an alternate timeline from the original game.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is what made so like I played through that Crisis Core game, and it sort of leads up to like that scene that you see at the very end of Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's very interesting to see like sort of the origins of the Buster Sword and to meet that Zack Fair character and sort of see where Cloud comes from and to meet Tifa and some of those other characters. You have like there's like a running sort of almost joke in the some of the side quests you do in that game where Yuffie keeps showing up and stealing your treasure that you're supposed to get for having successfully completed one of those like a series of side quests. And of course, I played through that Intergrade the DLC for Final Fantasy VII Remake like 2 years ago when I forget when that came out. And so it was cool to see her as well. And so like they're doing a lot with this, and I'm very curious to see where it's going and how all of these different characters are going to converge. And like I didn't play the original, so I don't know what to expect at all. But I think it'll be very interesting, even for people like you who do remember the original, to see sort of where they take things.
Or was that my number?
So that was my number 3, and I believe we're on to your number 3.
My number 3. I know what your number 2. I think we have the same number 2 actually, but okay. My number 3 is Starfield.
Ooh, yeah, that's my number 1. Spoilers.
So I think we both have Tears of the Kingdom as our number 2.
We do, and that made Silksong your number 1.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess let's talk about. Do you want to talk about Starfield
let's
or Tears
do
of the Kingdom?
Starfield. Both of us are super into it. It seems like they haven't released a Vidoc recently. I thought we were going to get them more regularly, but
yeah. Well, like maybe they've already run out of like their planned Vidocs before they expected the game to release.
That could be, yeah. Maybe they shot them all in anticipation of it coming out earlier.
But I am very much looking forward to this game. I love Fallout and Skyrim, and I love like the space setting, like the fact that they're doing a Bethesda RPG set in space with a little bit of like a hint of No Man's Sky in there.
Customizable ship mechanics, very cool. Customizable
ship. I love Mass Effect as well, so if they can like throw a little bit of Mass Effect in there as well.
The fact that you can customize your ship and all of your crewmates hang out on the ship, similar to Mass Effect, if they can pull that off, that's going to be, even that aspect of it is something. I would play just a game of that, where you customize a ship and like you collect people to be on that ship. That's just an aspect. Yeah, and it definitely, like Bethesda's had a rough time of it of late with some of their games, and this seems like it is potentially a return to form, going all the way back to like Skyrim, of like them just sort of nailing it in terms of like story and world building and game mechanics and just all of it. And I am very much hoping that that is the case. It could go either way. It could be a complete disaster the way something like Fallout 76 was, but I don't think that will be the case. Just based on what they've already shown, it could not be like a good performance game. But hopefully just the delays that they've done have given them enough time. I would almost rather they delayed it again and released it in the fall just to avoid Tears of the Kingdom, and then give them that extra time to polish it and make sure it's running and performing well. But I am also very hyped for it, so I would not be opposed to getting a chance to play it in the first half of this. You got to imagine, one, the pandemic made it so they had to spend more time on it, basically. And two, I feel like everybody is still aware of what happened with Cyberpunk, and they don't want that to happen again.
Yeah. Well, and Bethesda, for sure, they've, in the back of their mind, like, they've had rough launches with Fallout, and the ESO even, like, got out to a rocky start, and they had to do a lot with that to get it to where it is today. And credit to them, they have, like, stuck with those games and turned them into something that, like, their audience is, like, super into these days. So, I mean, it could be a Cyberpunk situation where it comes out and it initially doesn't run as well as you would like it to, but they, like, the underlying game of it is good, and, like, the story is good and the characters are good and people are into it for that reason. And just over time, they sort of morph it into something that is, like, still very good. And the wild card is that they are now owned by Microsoft. So potentially some of those delays could have been Microsoft stepping in and being like, no, you need more time for this. We want you to launch this as polished as it can be. And so we're going to give you more time and more money if you need it, and get this thing running as well as you possibly can before we ship it. And so I'm hoping that that's the case.
Speaking of being polished, most Zelda games, I would say, are polished.
Well, here's the thing. Is it going to be as polished as we want it to be, given the struggles the little Switch
That's my fear. So, I mean, it is also, I mean, right when Breath of the Wild came out, I've watched a lot of people like streamers I don't really follow even. I watched play Breath of the Wild, and every one of them, right after they got out of the first cave and went down, there's an area with kind of like willowy grass, and that stuttered a little bit for everybody. So, like, that part of the game was just like, the Switch could not handle it. Like, there was too many physics things going on or something. And generally Breath of the Wild runs really well, but there are areas where it's a symptom of the hardware. And this is going to be something that is, like, built on top of Breath of the Wild. So there's going to be even more stuff going on. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, and also, just given that, I think they thought there would be a Switch Pro at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Nintendo, according to Digital Foundry anyway, we talked about this last week, they had planned on releasing a Switch Pro, but because of, like, the chip shortage, I think that just ended up becoming the Switch OLED.
Yeah.
And now they've abandoned their plans for a mid-cycle upgrade, and now they're just focusing on the next console generation. So it is a little bit of a question mark as to how well it'll run. I think it should run as good as Breath of the Wild did. I think that's... Especially
with all the delays, I mean...
Yeah, so I think... And Nintendo's first-party developers are so good at, like, getting as much as they possibly can out of the Switch's horsepower. Game Freak, I think, struggled with their recent Pokemon games because maybe they're a smaller studio, but also, like, they were exclusively making games for the 3DS for a long time. And I feel like they just tried to beef up their engine so that it would look better on the Switch. And maybe that engine is just, like, not really designed to ship console games.
They also were just on a ton of... I feel like they were on a huge amount of strain because they put out, like, two or three games.
At least, like, 3 games within the last year and a half, because they had that remake of that one Pokemon game. Then they had Arceus, and then they did what was the last one?
The latest one.
Scarlet, the latest one.
And Violet?
Scarlet and Violet. Yeah, that's it. So it is very possible that they just didn't have enough time for it, and maybe they should have delayed it. But I don't think that it'll be the same situation with Tears of the Kingdom, but it is something you have to think about a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be great. It's kind of a known quantity a little bit. Like, we don't know where the story is going and what different things they've sort of added to spice up the gameplay, but we also know, like, based on the fact that it's a follow-up to Breath of the Wild, sort of what to expect. And, like, it's a lot of people's favorite game ever. So it's definitely, like, I can see a world where the 4 games that we just listed in the top 4 are the Game of the Year contenders, and it's like that's basically the order of the Game of the Year winners, with like Tears of the Kingdom coming in first, and then some variation of Starfield, Silksong, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth after that.
Yeah, as long as Tears of the Kingdom is like as good as Breath of the Wild, I mean, it's Zelda is so much like everyone loves Zelda, and so I feel like it basically is a shoo-in almost regardless of what happens in it. And then I think Starfield would probably be a close second if it runs well and they don't have like a crazy disaster at launch. And then I really don't know if it would be Silksong or Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as the third, but it's going to be, if all of these come out, it's going to be an insane Game Awards. I don't know what, I really don't know what's going to happen.
Those Game of the Year discussions that happen at the end of the year with everybody does their podcast, or they sort of debate and try to come to an agreement on like the top 10 games of the year, which I always find a fun conversation to listen to. And it's just going to be crazy to have those heavy hitters in the mix. So it'll be cool to see at the end of the year, like which of these games actually did come out and which ones stuck to the landing. So I do have some others that we can go through as like
some honorable mentions.
Possibilities. Yeah. Now, I don't think this is coming out this year, but we might find out more about it. Dragon Age Dreadwolf, the fourth Dragon Age game after Inquisition. I liked Inquisition quite a bit. I'm not sure it holds up as well as I would like it to if I went back to it today, but I like the Dragon Age games, or at least like Inquisition quite a bit, and I'm curious to see where the story goes, because I believe one of your party members from Inquisition is like the bad guy in this one. So I'm curious to see what they do with that. The Plucky Squire. Do you remember this game?
Oh, yes. This is the one where you jump out of a book.
Yeah. So I'm very curious to see how this game is. It looks cool. I think it's an interesting art style, and interesting how you're able to like, you know, be in a book for like the 2D stuff, and then to jump out of the book and be able to sort of explore almost Tinykin style, explore like almost like you're a small person in like a giant bedroom.
Yeah.
And there are just like different toys around. And so almost Super Mario Odyssey style, you're like exploring a 3D world, but every now and then you'll jump into like an image on like a cup or something, and you'll explore like a 2D plane for a little while. So yeah, I think it looks very cool. And then another one I have is Arc Raiders. Do you remember this one?
No. Oh, wait. Is this the one? Is this like a multiplayer one where you're fighting giant robots?
Yeah, it seems like maybe it's a cooperative shooter where you're running around this almost like old style, like futuristic, like space setting, and you're sort of fighting drones and stuff.
Yeah.
It looks pretty cool to me. I'm curious to find out more about that. I don't know if it'll come out this year, but I'm very curious to find out more about it.
Yeah.
And then another game I've got is one you'll be interested in, Hyper Light Breaker.
Yes, that looks. I have wishlisted it on Steam.
Yeah, so I'm curious to find out more about it as well. It's the same world as Hyper Light Drifter, but a very different style game, it seems like.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about that one. I will maybe even jump back in and check out Dead Cells Return to Castlevania, because I've been playing Dead Cells, and it's very cool to me. So I might check that out. Metal Slug Tactics, I think, is a cool game if that ever comes out.
Yeah, that looks great.
We already talked about Replaced. Is one I had on here. Sea of Stars. Do you remember seeing a trailer for this? It's sort of a Chrono Trigger-esque SNES era RPG.
Yes, this looked very cool, actually. I remember, the art style of this is really reminiscent of like Chrono Trigger and things like that.
Yeah, it's the team behind The Messenger as well, which I've heard very good things about. Mm-hmm. I think it's actually supposed to be like an RPG prequel to that game. I don't know if maybe I should go back and check out The Messenger or not, but
I heard good things about it. I heard that like towards the end of it, it got a little bit too backtracky, but I think the combat of it was super solid.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that one. I think it'll be cool. And then Another one that you'll be interested in, Hades 2, is, I don't believe like the full release is coming in 2023, but they did say on their website, they claim that the game is going to launch in early access at some point in 2023. So the full official release might not happen until 2024, but you might be able to play it this year at some point.
I'll do it. I would be interested in that.
For sure. And some other things I would like to see. I don't think any of this will happen. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Maybe we'll find out something, but some aspirational things. That 3D Donkey Kong game that may or may not exist. I would like to see something about that this year. Metroid Prime 4. We don't know. Maybe it's coming. Maybe it's not coming for another 5 years. Who's to say? They sort of restarted development of that game at one point. I would also like to see a Metroid Prime Trilogy remaster for the Switch, because I never got to play those games, and I've heard nothing but good things about them. And it would make a lot of sense to release that ahead of Metroid Prime 4. A new mainline Mario game, whether that's Super Mario Odyssey 2.
We're getting into real wishful thinking now.
Oh, for sure. Or some sort of open world, like Bowser's Fury style game.
I would love that.
It would be awesome, at least to get like an announcement of it coming in like 2024 or something. It would be cool to see.
I mean, they're shooting their shot with Tears of the Kingdom. And as far as like other things to look forward to, that's been, I mean, I think Tears of the Kingdom has won most anticipated game at the Game Awards for like 2 or 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
So once that's out, like, I guess Metroid Prime 4 is on the horizon, but they're really going to need to give us something else to wait for.
And it's possible that they're learning their lesson with Tears of the Kingdom, announcing it and being like, oh, we're just not ready for this. Development's taking longer than expected. Let's not announce Odyssey 2 yet.
Yeah.
But I assume it's probably being worked on somewhere by somebody.
What if 2023 is similar to the year
2017?
Yeah, where we get a Zelda and a Mario.
And it would be very insane if they just like over the summer they do like a Nintendo Direct during like E3 and they're like, Super Mario Odyssey 2 exists and it's coming this fall.
Man, that would be
insane.
Crazy.
Especially while people are probably still playing Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
That'd be insane. So next up I got Mass Effect 4. Just something with Mass Effect 4. Show me something. And then show me something about Elder Scrolls 6. If Starfield does release in the first half of the year, well, that's shipped. It's ready to go. You can go ahead and start talking about Elder Scrolls 6 now. So show me that.
I would at least, if they even would say where it's going to be, that would be enough for me.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be like a full-on trailer. Just like say the name.
Yeah, give us a subheading.
Where it exists, and I will be very happy. And then I would also like a second-generation Switch. Probably not happening this year, maybe not even next year. And then Team Asobi's next game. So this is the team that made Astro's Playroom, which is that free game that you get with every PS5. Mm-hmm. And they did the Astrobot Rescue Mission, which is a PSVR title, which it makes me a little bit worried that the next thing they have on the horizon is like a PSVR 2 game of some sort, which is probably likely. But I would love it if they did a full Astro's Playroom style game where it was just like a 3D platformer that you could play, because it was so good what they did with that game. And if they were like, Nintendo's got their Mario and we are going to have our Astro as our sort of mascot 3D platforming series. I guess they sort of have that with Sackboy's Big Adventure, which I did play some over the holidays. And it's good. It's like a good co-op game. If they want to do more of that, I think Team Asobi is like very good for as far as developers go. So I would like to see what they have coming up. And then Nintendo needs to add GameCube games to the Switch online library. And if they do that, maybe the Metroid Prime trilogy gets added that way. Even if it's not like a full-on remaster. But and another aspirational thing, I just want Nintendo to do more weird little spin-offs like they did with like Bowser's Fury, but like you can release it just as Bowser's Fury.
Yeah,
you don't have to do like you don't have to attach it to some other game. Like just like $15-$20 little spinoffs, or like they had that Kirby's Dream Buffet and that Mario and Tetris Battle Royale game.
Yeah,
like just release some weird, fun side stuff. Even if Odyssey 2 isn't ready. Just give us another little Mario experience. Not everything has to be like a full-fledged $60 release. I'm totally up for weird little spinoffs. So, and that's all I got.
Well, should we talk about what we've been playing / watching?
Yeah. So over the holidays, this is more just wrap up of stuff I played over the holidays. I talked about Sackboy Big Adventure. Somehow they're still releasing costumes for that game. I saw a tweet just this last week of like another costume they have for that.
Whoa.
Which like this game has been out for I feel like a long time now, like at least like 2 or 3 years, and they're still releasing stuff for it, which is crazy to me. But that game is fun. Like it's a good co-op game. I think you can play it by yourself, but you can also play it with up to 4 people. I played it in co-op, and it's a little bit like if it did come out the same year that what was that co-op game, that one game in the year?
Oh, It Takes Two?
Yeah. People were all about that because it was like a fun co-op game. And that's basically why it won. If you want to have a fun co-op game that you can play on like your PS4 or your PS5, and you want to play it with your significant other, but you don't want it to be about divorce, like Sackboy Big Adventure, go play that game. It was on sale for like $20.
Wow.
Over the holidays, so I picked it up for my parents to play since they have a PS5 now, and so I got to play a little bit of it with them, and it was fun. So I recommend that game. Another game I played with family over the holidays is Drawful 2. It's just a good game to have on your Switch, so you can plop it in a dock and everybody can connect with their phone, and it's very fun. And then I did play some Fortnite. Switch is not the place I want to play that, but that's somehow how it always ends up, because like the only time I play it is when like my siblings are like, hey, we're hanging out together and we have access to like a PS5 or a Switch, and let's just play together. And so that happened. I spent New Year's actually ringing in the new year playing Fortnite with my brother. He was playing on my parents' PS5 at the house, and I had my Switch with me and I was playing. So it was actually an interesting sort of side-by-side to see like the new stuff that they have visually for Fortnite on the PS5 versus me running it in handheld on my Switch. And it is like stark, the graphical like visual difference. Now it runs fine on Switch. Like they've done a really good job of making it run well on Switch, but it looks much better on PS5. And I do think that game is fun. I'm not good at it, but I do think it's fun. And I think that's everything. Oh, I did finish Death's Gambit Afterlife, which I highly recommend. It's very, very good. It gets very sort of trippy and almost meta towards the end. I don't know if maybe we should do like a spoiler thing on it, but...
How long did it take you to beat?
It was a little over 20 hours.
Okay.
So like reasonable, not overly long, but not short either. I really like the pixel art style of it. I really like the soundtrack. The music's great, and it's fully voiced. And I like the combat as well. I used a greatsword, and I really like how you can do like the builds in that game. Like, cause it's a little Souls-like, where there's like you can do a magic build where you use a tome and throw magic out, or you can use like a bow and arrow, or you can use like all these different types of melee weapons, from like scythes and spears to like great swords and stuff like that. So there's a lot of variety there. And my build was basically I used the great sword as my main weapon, and I would hack and slash with that, and that would build up my ability to use the different abilities for your great sword. One of them was like a poke that you would do that would start like bleed damage on an enemy. And so they take damage over time, and then I could use this like sort of lunging like fire sword attack that would set them on fire. So there's like 2 different dots on them, And then my secondary sword was just a long sword, which I was not like specialized in, but I could use it. And it was the cauterized sword. So what it would do is when you would attack an enemy that had bleed damage on them, it would cause an explosion.
Whoa.
That would deal like a big chunk of damage off them. And I think it would also like set them on fire again.
Excellent synergy.
And yeah, so it was really good synergy. And then I had this like downward, like I could jump up and then like do like sort of a ground pound. That my greatsword, as I would dealt damage to enemies, it would build up these like little orbs around me. And once I had enough of them, I could do that drop down attack, and it would like chain lightning to enemies nearby. And so yeah, and it would also, I had a perk in my skill tree that would make it so that the drop down attack, when I did that, it would also give me like bonus damage for like a few seconds. So I would do that drop down and then just like attack and poke them and get all the damage over time on them and hit them with let it tick some damage off of them and then hit them with that cauterized sword for the explosion. And
it seems very customizable.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do with it. I spec'd mainly into strength because that was what my greatsword needed, but a lot of things you could do. It's very fun. I definitely recommend that game. What about you?
I haven't really played anything, but I did watch a weird show that is currently airing on Peacock, the streaming app Peacock, called Paul T. Goldman. And it's directed by Jason Woliner, who is a cool guy. He was like the kind of fourth member of Human Giant back in the day. And I'm not sure how real it is. Similar to like The Rehearsal on HBO. It's like very surreally, like the main guy in it, I think, is a real guy. Because like he wrote a book in 2009 that did come out in 2009. So I think he is like a real dude. But the plot of this show is that like they're telling his story, but he's writing and starring in it. There's kind of a meta narrative going on. It's very interesting, and I find it to be pretty funny, actually. I only really know about it because I still follow Jason Woliner on Twitter, and also a bunch of people like Nathan Fielder and people like that were tweeting about this great new show. It's currently airing on Peacock I believe every Sunday there's a new episode, and the first 3 episodes are out now. But if you're looking for something weird to watch, check out Paul T. Goldman on Peacock.
It's very, makes me think of, what is that, the guy that did The Room, what's his name?
Yes, it is similar to that. Kind of a Tommy Wiseau, where he's basically given creative control, and so he just makes these weird decisions.
He's this very weird, kind of socially awkward guy that like is somehow has enough money to be like the main person involved in this thing. It
actually is a very apt...
sort of ill-equipped to handle.
Yeah, it's a very apt comparison. It's very interesting. I only have Peacock because we got it to watch that MacGruber show, which was also pretty good. And then there's another show that's coming out that I'm interested in, but I don't remember what it is. But, like 30 Rock is on there and stuff. But, Paul T. Goldman, check it out.
Interesting. Do you have any parting wisdom?
I'm going to cede this time to you because before we started recording, you were talking about you just got an air fryer and it's changed your life.
It has. So another thing I did over the holidays was I used my family's air fryer for the first time, and I was like, wow, this is like so convenient. And it basically replaces the need for an oven, which is great for me because the oven is very slow to warm up and to cook things, but you do get like nice crispy food from it. So you want the result of the oven. You just don't want to have to use the oven. And this basically replaces that. I also don't have a microwave because my apartment did not come with one and I didn't want to buy one. So this also replaces the need for that. And it's great. You just throw some chicken, some other stuff in there if you want, and you can cook it up super fast and it tastes great. So I highly recommend air fryers if you do not have one.
I have one as well. I love to make tater tots and mozzarella sticks in it. Not as healthy as the baked chicken that you're making, but it's great for that as well. Yeah,
and it like completely opens the door for me because I had gotten to a point where I basically only made like chicken that I could make in a pan on the stove because of what appliances I had available to me. But because I didn't want to use my stove. Weird thing about my apartment is using the stove would, for whatever reason, would set off my smoke detectors, which didn't make any sense. But so I just avoided it. And now, if I want to make like a piece of salmon, for instance, I couldn't do that. So I basically only ever ate chicken that was like in like strips of chicken that was easy to like cook in a pan. And now it's all back open. It's all an option, and I'm gonna like definitely use it an awful lot, that air fryer.
There you go. That's some wisdom for you right there.
It is. Actually, I was thinking about it. Like, I need to stop eating them because the wraps that I get, they're keto friendly, but they have other stuff in them that I don't necessarily want. But I was gonna make one that like, because I'll make that chicken. It'll be like buffalo chicken or blackened chicken or like fajita chicken. Throw it in a wrap, and then I realized I could just throw the entire wrap in the air fryer and basically make a chimichanga out of it. It would be great.
Yeah.
So I might do that, even though I'm just to finish off the wraps that I shouldn't be eating. But you know. On that note, why don't you go ahead and follow us on all the things: Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Starside Cafe. Check out our website, starsidecafe.com, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.